This is Fantasy Football Today from CBSSports.com.
All right, it's Fantasy Week 16. Let's help you win your league, or at least your semifinals if you're playing into Week 17. Welcome, everybody. This is an exclusive presentation of Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports. I'm Adam Azer with Jamie Eisberg and Dave Richards. Starters sit now for Week 16, and we'll begin with the quarterbacks and Colin Kaepernick. Jamie, coming off a good game last week, start him again.
Yeah, absolutely start him again. It's a great matchup for him against Atlanta. Every quarterback outside of Matt Flynn has gotten to multiple touchdowns against this Falcons defense. They just allowed Kirk Cousins to light them up for over 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. And I think Kaepernick in his final game, in the 49ers' final game at Candlestick Park, they're going to go out with a good show. They're trying to make their playoff push. This is what we saw from Kaepernick last season. He's doing it again, gets Crabtree back. They're playing well. Love Colin Kaepernick this week. He's top 5 quarterback for me.
Dave, what about Andrew Luck, start or sit?
You know, 2 weeks ago he surprised us by playing well on the road. It's the first time, or second time rather, in 11 games that he had done that. Now he's back on the road, on grass, outdoors, at Kansas City. That's a tough matchup. 2 of the last 6 quarterbacks against Kansas City have had 16 or had more than 16 fantasy points. The other 4, 16 or fewer fantasy points. So that's the type of matchup that Luck's looking at. I don't doubt for a second that he's going to throw a lot in the game. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get you a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns without a lot of turnovers.
All right, now a look at the running backs. Jamie, I want to talk about Chris Ivory here. Do you trust him this week against Cleveland?
I think you should. You know, the workload's expected to be there for him. You're talking about a guy that when he's had the work, he's been successful. It's a matchup that's sort of hit or miss. We saw Matt Forte do well against the Browns last week, and I think Chris Ivory has an opportunity to do the same thing. We got to know what the Browns are playing for. The Jets, you know, they still want to show up, play well at home, keep their maybe they're playing for Rex Ryan. We'll find out if they're playing for Rex. But they're definitely going to give Chris Ivory an opportunity. He wants to still prove that he can be the next type of running back that can come up. I don't want to say elite, but can definitely be a starting caliber guy in the NFL. He's been proving that when he's gotten chances this year. I think this is another one of those games. I like his opportunity. He's a very strong number 2 running back this week.
All right, Dave, we look at San Francisco's run defense. You know, earlier on in the year, it looked like it was kind of a weakness for them. It's pretty good now, and Steven Jackson's got a tough test.
Over their last 5 games, they've allowed just over 75 rush yards per game and only 2 touchdowns. So that's working against Steven Jackson. The fact that the Falcons are probably going to be trailing in this game for the reasons that Jamie mentioned for why Colin Kaepernick is a good start, that's another strike against him. I think it's a tough matchup. I think it's easy to get away from Steven Jackson this week. Look for Jordan Todman on the waiver wire. If MJD is out in Jacksonville, he's going to have a great game against Tennessee.
Wide receivers. Julian Edelman was an absolute monster last week. We wondered how Tom Brady would compensate for the loss of Rob Gronkowski. Well, Edelman has stepped up, Dave. At Baltimore, though, tough test or start him anyway?
I think you've got to start him anyway. He has 51 targets in his last 4 games. I even wrote down his fantasy production, both in standard leagues and PPR. Tell me if you'd love to have this in your lineup. 23 fantasy points, 10 points, 12 points, 19 points. Those are his last 4 games. In a PPR, 32 points, 19 points, 18 points, and another 32, John.
Wow.
This guy is outstanding, and he's just playing a huge role in this Patriots offense, and they need him desperately. Brady needs him desperately. He's going to keep targeting him. He's going to have another good
game. You remember in the offseason when I said that Edelman would be better than Wes Welker?
I thought I was the one
fairly
that said
similar to Amendola, but not quite. Yeah, Edelman's certainly taken. And
Amendola could be a good start this week, too.
All right, Roddy White. We'll go back to the San Francisco-Atlanta matchup, and you'll see a theme here. Roddy White is a sit.
I think I like the 49ers to win that game. I'm just going to you know, again, last game in Candlestick Park. I think you're looking at Roddy White right now. What are you expecting from him when he's had good matchups like last week? He struggled, let you down. I think 8 fantasy points is about the best you could hope for. They're going to be throwing a lot. They're not going to have a lot of success running, as you illustrated, with Steven Jackson. So the targets will be there. And we've seen him put up decent numbers when the targets have been there. But the 49ers don't allow production of wide receivers. No. They're going to be able to contain Roddy White. He's at best a 3rd receiver, and you got to be in a tough situation to feel comfortable starting Roddy White at this point in the season.
Yeah, this could have been my NFC Championship pick at the beginning of the year. Oops. Sorry about that. Thanks,
You're not
Falcons.
alone on that one.
How about the
not
tight
that
ends?
I did.
I'm not, though. Delanie
Delanie
Walker had a great matchup last week. He took advantage of it. Dave, do you start him again this week at Jackson?
Yeah, I kind of slept on Delanie Walker last week. I'm not making that same mistake twice. Jacksonville's allowed 9 touchdowns to tight ends on the season. And if you look at how he's played with Ryan Fitzpatrick this year, he's been outstanding. He's been giving tons of opportunities. In the 4 games he's actually finished with Ryan Fitzpatrick, at least 8 targets in them. He's had a touchdown in 3 of his last 5 games. Guy's a monster right now. I think you keep rolling with him.
And Antonio Gates is a sit.
Yeah, he's just not very inspiring right now. You know, as well as Phillip Rivers has played, as well as the Chargers offense looked. Just look at that game last week against Denver. Antonio Gates non-existent because Phillip Rivers right now has eyes for Keenan Allen and they're running the ball with a lot of success. And I think you're going to get a similar type matchup this week. He did have 7 fantasy points against Oakland the last time these two teams met. That's about what you expect from him this week. It puts him outside my top 12, and I think you're looking at guys, Tyler Eifert, great matchup this week if Jermaine Gresham's out. Zach Miller, fantastic matchup against the Cardinals. I think those two guys available to you on waivers right now in your championship week, and I would start them over Antonio Gates.
It's a gamble going with one of those two guys.
They might
only get you exactly, but with Gates, the gamble is they might get you 2 fantasy points, or they might get you 7 or 8. With the other guys, they might get you 0, or they might get you like 13.
Right.
Because they play so much and have that type of big play potential that Gates doesn't have.
In the last 3 games, Tyler Eifert has 1 more touchdown than Antonio Gates.
How about that? All right, well, we got plenty more for you on the website, all of our rankings, PPR and standard, fantasynews.cbssports.com. Make sure you check out our show live Tuesday through Friday, noon Eastern time, and Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern with Dave Richard, Jamie Eisenberg, Jason Horowitz, and Chad Johnson. 8 p.m. Eastern time, we wrap everything up, hosted by Nando DeFino. This has been an exclusive presentation of Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports. I'm Adam Azer. Thanks for watching, everybody, and good luck. Go ahead, win your championship here in Week 16.